It has to be individualistic. And the problem we have is that not everyone fits in to every category of treatment. Everyone is different. You know, someone that's been addicted for 6 years is not treated the same way that someone that's addicted for, you know, a month. Some people have underlying mental health issues. But the key is you have to have a system to evaluate people right up front, decide where they need to go, and be able to get them where they need to go immediately. They can't wait 2-3 weeks to get into programs, or they can't go to a program where they need one form of treatment, but that provider doesn't give them the form of treatment that they really need.
Now, is this going to require more personnel, more money spent for this basically on-call treatment?
I think it's going to require a lot more money. It's going to require a changing of attitudes of people and a changing of hearts. The stigma that goes with overdose deaths has to be you have to be able to look past that. You have to realize that law enforcement's job is the preservation of life. And again, we're going to hold people that sell drugs accountable, and we do that every day, and we're doing that in this case where this young lady died. But we need more on the education and the treatment side in order to even start dealing with this epidemic in a realistic way. And you know, another thing we have to do is we have to start talking about the problems without the stigma and without the rhetoric that drives people into fury. Again, addiction or substance abuse disorder is classified as a disease. We have to look at it as that. To look at it as anything different, then we're defeating the purpose of why we're here. And a lot of people go about their everyday life. They're not exactly attuned to that's what it really is. That substance abuse disorder is a disease. We have a drug court and a diversion court that works very well. Some people in that court system, they get inpatient. Some people get outpatient. Some people need medically assisted treatment. But you have to have a provider and a system that can evaluate and determine what every individual needs and gets them to that as soon as practically possible in order to preserve life. Again, when we're losing 4 people over the course of a weekend and no one wants to talk about it, then my job is to make people talk about it. And that's why you're here today. Those 4 people mattered to people in this county. They were brothers, sisters, mothers, children of somebody. And to not just talk about it and let it go, then we're not serving the people as far as I'm concerned. And that's why I'm here today talking about it.
Where are most of the drugs coming from still? The New York metro area?
Yes, everything stems out of New York City or Patterson here in Orange County. And again, the flow is constant. And what the difference is that you're seeing is it's fentanyl. 1 or 2 grains or milligrains of fentanyl mixed in with heroin can be deadly. And we're seeing more and more fentanyl mixed in, causing the overdoses and causing death. More than we ever have in the past.
If it can be proven that Pagon did supply her the drugs that killed this woman, will you up the charges?
More than likely, no.
What are the limitations? New York doesn't have a strict liability statute.
New York does not have a strict liability statute, and there's a case in New York that deals with when you can charge somebody with manslaughter or criminal negligence in supplying the drugs that led to their death. It basically requires aggravating factors, a certain level of knowledge and regarding what you were doing, which in a typical case is extremely difficult and rarely the prosecution is able to prove. What we're stuck with is we have criminal injection, if that happened, and we have the drug sale and possession with intent to sell as we charged in this case. But again, and those charges, believe it or not, a drug sale count is a B felony, which is actually higher than reckless manslaughter, which is a C, a higher level felony. But again, it doesn't take into account that there was a death. So, no, the answer to that question is more than likely there will be no upgrading of charges. These will be the charges that stay.
Now, when you educate the kids, you bring in the tough love aspect?
I think you have a little bit of everything. I think you have tough love, you have best practices when it comes to education, but what you're going to hear from me is it has to be repetitive. Everything that we do in life that we become successful at, there's an aspect of being repetitive with it. Whether you're an athlete and you perform the same actions over and over, whether you're a lawyer, whether you're a doctor, whether you're a surgeon, it's the practice and it's the repetition. And again, our substance and alcohol abuse educational programs we have, they hit for a small period of time and then they're withdrawn. If we don't start repetitively doing that over and over and over, it's not as effective. And again, you have so many tools in the tool shed. You know, Nancy Reagan's just say no. It's one aspect. Yes, just say no is one aspect. And for you, that may work. But for her, it may not work. You know, she may need to hear it in a classroom 7 times before it sticks with her. You know, I may need to see one of my friends suffer the consequences before it sticks with me. But again, unless we're giving it repetitively, I don't think it's as effective as it needs to be.
Do we need the educators to get more involved? Because, as we say, there's not an infinite amount of money where you can hire another 80 ADAs and put them out to the classroom.
The answer is not arresting everybody. We will arrest and hold accountable every single person that sells drugs that we can prove the case. And we will hold people accountable to commit crimes while they're high on drugs. I think that's pretty established by this office and by the things that I say. But I think education, and I by no means am being that critical of them. I understand that they have a certain amount of time in the day, that they have to have math, they have to have science, they have to have English, and a lot of other things that our teachers are already very overburdened. But again, this is becoming such a pervasive problem across our country that when are we going to say that enough is enough? When are we going to put enough money toward the education and the treatment that are effective so that law enforcement can really sit down and hammer their job of getting the people that are bringing the drugs in? And again, it's a very difficult job because we live in a free society. We have open borders and the flow of narcotics coming in from South America and Mexico. Your heroin, most of it comes in through South America and Mexico. The 8 or 9 primary drug cartels makes its way to New York City and the East Coast. And sometimes the fentanyl comes in afterward and it's mixed. Sometimes processed fentanyl goes to South America and Mexico and it's mixed there. There's different ways that's happening. But the bottom line is that it is flowing in very freely. And, you know, I hear about the doctors where people want to talk about doctors overprescribing. At one point, that was a problem. I think it's been reduced. I think we've done a pretty good job of working with our doctors now. Most of the time, you get a 7-day supply of narcotics if you need them. And most doctors are very cautious about how they prescribe, and there's always going to be bad ones. But again, I come back to I'm here talking to you today because when we lose 4 people in a weekend, and it will not be covered anywhere, I'm depending on you to make sure the public knows.
Is there any connection between these 4 people, or just it's
fentanyl-laced heroin?
But it's not the same dealer. It's
not that
different.
I can. No, I can't.
Sure.
I can't tell you that I can't tell you that there's any connection between the people, the dealer, or the drugs.
Is it just at this point there's so much fentanyl out there that
so much heroin that has fentanyl in it, and you have to remember that you don't know. The person using doesn't know if there's fentanyl in it. And you have to remember too that the human body, in all its great design, you could take a dose that had a certain amount of fentanyl in it today and it wouldn't kill you, but tomorrow it would. And again, only known to the creator how that actually works, but again, it's something that we deal with.
You would think that a normal person, if they know fentanyl's out there and it's going to kill you, they'd stay away from this stuff. But I guess they're so dependent.
Well, when you have substance abuse disorder and addiction, the demand of the brain is so great that you can't resist. And I think that over the course of time I've been DA and the time that I've been a prosecutor, and that I see it every day. We see it in our drug courts, that the body just craves it. And it's hard for people to control it. But again, with those people, you have to find a way to treat them. And, you know, treating you and treating you are two different people that need to be treated as individuals. And again, you have great treatment providers all over the county, but treatment provider A may not have the treatment that you need, but treatment provider B would have it. Well, then we have to have a way to evaluate you and get you away from A and get you to B. But again, that all kind of comes back to treatment on demand, which is a costly thing. But again, how many people have to die until we really start to notice? And no one wants to talk about it. No one wants to talk about the drug overdoses. I go back to, if they were homicides, it would be on the front page of the paper every day. Yet, you will only see in the obituaries that the person died of unknown causes, or the other phrase that they use. And you'll see someone of a relatively young age, you know, under 33 or lower.
And you're seeing lately one a day in the obits.
You're seeing a
the
lot.
Young age.
You're seeing a lot. 88 people last year is a lot of people. A lot of family members, brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers that are not with us anymore.
Can you just one more time quickly summarize what went on over the weekend with the arrest in Montgomery?
Yeah, sure. There was a drug overdose. As a result of the overdose, a 24-year-old young lady passed away. A subsequent investigation of the scene led the police to believe that Mr. Pagan, J. Pagan, 32, of Maybrook, had sold narcotics to the young lady that passed away. As a result of that investigation, he was arrested, he was charged, and he's currently in Orange County Jail, charged with drug sale and criminal possession of a controlled with intent to sell in the third degree, both B felonies, and he's in on $25,000 cash, over $7,500 bond.
And the drug involved was heroin?
Yes, an opioid.
No.
Top count, how much would he get if he...
Right now, B felony is first offense 1 to 9, all the way or that would be one state prison. Those would be the options. You could go all the way to probation, and if he had a second offense, it goes up slightly.
So you supply somebody with drugs and you get 1 to 9.
Yes, you could get 1. You could get, it's a determinate sentence. You could get 1. You could get 2. You could get 3, all the way up to 9.
It's like the automobile manslaughter cases where you kill 3 people in one case, and
yep, you get 4 to 12, or you get But again, drugs, it's always determinate. It's one number plus. Yep.
If we changed the laws and hiked the sentences, that wouldn't help.
It would help a little bit. I think that when the Rockefeller drug laws were changed in the mid-2000s, that I don't think anyone anticipated an opioid or a heroin epidemic on the horizon. Again, because heroin is such a low molecular value drug, or low weight, it takes a significant amount of heroin to raise the weights up to the heavier felony levels. I mean, significant amount of heroin to get there. And again, you can have, 0.02 of a gram can be a dose of heroin. And with fentanyl in it, it can be lethal. As opposed to when we deal with cocaine, we talk about you had 1 gram, you had 2 grams, you had 3 grams. 0.02 of a gram with fentanyl could be fatal. That's the difference between, the illicit drug cocaine and heroin.